And we are live. Thank you for tuning in to Learn and Laugh with me, Sumair, your host. I am a business growth and leadership coach, and I am on a mission to help you build your dream career and business. And today on our show, my guest is Nariman Qureshi. She's bundles of energy, and I got to learn so much about her just before going live. So I think I have to ask her again for this show. But today we are talking HR. So let's look at Nariman. Here's a big reveal. Hi, Nariman.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. And firstly, I must say that you're really brave to be on this broadcast.
Why is should I be worried? I don't know.
No, you shouldn't be worried at all. It's just that sometimes people always ask me, "What kind of questions will you ask me?" And I'm
This is
always
true.
saying,
It's a little worrying. I don't know because you've got so much energy and this could go in so many different directions. I don't know how well prepared I am for this.
no, no, let's see where it goes. But before that, I would like you to briefly tell people amongst a lot of things that you do, talk about yourself.
Sure. So as Sumair said, my name is Nariman. I am currently working with the British Council. I look after talent and development for South Asia, and now I'm starting to look at the East Asia region as well. So it's fun, exciting times for me. I've been working in the field of HR for about, I think, 16, 17 years now with different FMCGs, MNCs, et cetera. And this is, British Council is a big change in gears for me to move into the development sector, but one that I've enjoyed a lot. It's been really exciting and very fulfilling work. Other than HR, I have a load of other interests. I have my own little blog that I run, which talks about food and what just keeps me busy in my day-to-day life. So that's there. I enjoy acting every now and then when I get the chance. But so HR has been my field for so long, and there's certain areas of HR which I enjoy more than others, but I think I can keep that to be revealed a little bit later in this session.
Very cool. And we have our first person who's watching this. It's Saman. She's saying hi. So hi, Saman. So you're in HR and you do a lot of interviews, but today I'm going to be asking questions. Are you ready for the first question?
Okay. I haven't been on the other side of questions for a while.
So let's start with something like an icebreaker and see how it goes. So Nariman, what's your party trick or unusual talent?
It's really sad. I don't think I have an unusual talent. I mean, I'll be honest. I have literally zero party tricks, and I'm never that cool person who'll say, "Oh, look what I can do." Either like bend my thumb. I'm completely useless in these things. My party trick, or like the thing that helps me when I'm at a social event or connecting with people, is just my ability to talk about so many different things, in the sense like all the things that I enjoy doing. Find something or the other to connect with people out there. So I rely on that a lot more than party tricks. I'm so sorry. It's so sad.
No, and I can vouch for that with your energy.
No talent.
With your energy and the different parts of the world that you lived in, and I've always found that you're really good at striking a conversation with people. So that could be your party trick, talking to anyone about anything, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So now let's move to maybe not something serious, but something very related to HR, because you've been in HR for so long, and a lot of people who are watching, they look for inspiration and guidance. So I wanted to ask you, what are your top 3 suggestions for people who are looking to move up the HR ladder?
The first thing is, as an HR professional, I think one of the things that surprisingly is still a big miss with a lot of young HR professionals that I've met, is the way that they understand the business, right? So you can be a great HR person. You can know the HR theory. You can know that inside out. But if you don't know how to translate that to business results, how to link it to where the business wants to be, you're not really going to get that far. You're not going to get into HR leadership roles. So that's one, being able to understand the business that you're in, and how HR can actually help take the business from here to here. So that's one. The second thing is, don't think of yourself as a support function. Don't think of yourself as
awesome. I'm loving it.
I hate it when people call things like HR or finance support services. It's like I'm not a support service. And the way to do that is obviously is to have strategic input. And if as an HR professional you understand strategy, both from the HR side and the business side, that is what's going to help you actually sell yourself as a strategic person rather than just someone who's at the table for the sake of ticking the box that we called HR here. The third thing is, and this is a lesson that I learned when I was working in my first job from one of my line managers. I was in a business partnering role, and I used to spend a lot of time like working, making presentations or Excel sheets. And he told me, he's like, why are you sitting at your desk? I don't, your job is not about sitting at your table. Your job is out there with the people, it's out with your stakeholders. So as an HR person, I think we get so bogged down in like Excel sheets and policies and paperwork that it's really important that we remember that our job is to build that connect between management, business, and the people of the organization. So just make sure you have your hands, on the pulse of what's happening in the organization, that you actually have a connect in a way that is genuine so that people trust you, because that is the one thing where I think HR falls flat, is when there is a lack of trust, when people don't see HR as someone that they can go to when they have a concern, someone's going to maintain confidentiality, and you become a mouthpiece for management, then it's pointless. So those are the things that I would say I would recommend or advice for aspiring HR leaders. Yeah.
Very cool. So before I just, get into a discussion on some of the things you talked about, someone from France also logged in. Benoit, he's an old friend, so he's watching this show. Thank you for tuning in, Benoit. And I was taking notes as you were talking. So understand business, not just act as a support function, and moving around. That's awesome. Sending just flowery emails is not good enough from HR, right?
No, it really isn't. Because I've seen that happen a lot, where you say, "Oh, I've made a very cool email. It's very flashy." With it, or you put up like posters around the office and you hold events. It's really pointless if you don't have an actual, genuine connect with people. So make sure you get that right.
Cool. I just want to build a little bit more on this question. It's interesting you said all these things. I've also led HR teams. And one of the biggest challenges that I found was that when you are in the boardroom with other heads of departments, it was always a huge challenge for HR to have a voice, especially when there is a CFO, there's someone who's heading operations, right? So what do you think should happen? How should HR, I think part of the answer is what you talked about earlier. Are there any things that you can suggest for people who are in those boardrooms, which are scary at times?
Honestly, they can be horrible. I think there's two things to it. One, HR is a function, or, when you're dealing with the people of the organization, everybody has an opinion and everybody is a people manager. So they feel like they know what they're talking about and they understand it. And I think that's where that distinction of HR being seen as like a professional function, I think that's one of our biggest issues as an industry or as a fraternity, like the HR fraternity. Finance people are seen as professionals. You won't challenge the CFO the same way that people challenge like a CHRO or an HRD. It just doesn't happen. It does not happen in the boardroom. So I think some of the points, like I said earlier, that if you can speak the same language that the rest of that table is speaking, that will help. If you're not speaking that language, people are not going to take your input as seriously. So I think when you are at a leadership level, this is regardless of whether you're HR or marketing or, operations, your job is not just for your function, right? You are for the business, and you need to speak to the business, for the business. And that's how it's going to work. So you need to speak that same language. You need to speak as a whole and not just that tunnel vision of this is important for HR because of XYZ. You need to sell it in that way. And I think, again, something that we often miss in HR is like the business case side of things. So when you are taking something, a new proposal, you want to launch something, you want to change something, build a business case, put in the numbers, put in the data, do the homework. And I've seen it happen so often, not just, when I was heading HR, but when I've had people within my team share something with me, I'm like, this is nice. It's a great idea. But where's the background work for this? I need more details. I need to understand why this will have the impact it will have. So I think just doing that homework, speaking that same language, all of that helps in making sure that you actually get a voice and not just a seat at the table.
Awesome. Beautiful. So understanding of business helps, numbers help because, people understand numbers, right?
Yes.
Perfect. So before we move into more questions with you, what I usually do during these broadcasts, that I share a few things from my perspective, and we'll come back and have a discussion on that. And
Sure.
hopefully I'll get this done the first time. So let's see. First, I have to do this. Okay. Yeah, with technology, you just sometimes do not know what's happening.
Unreliable thing.
So let me now try to share the screen. Okay. There's the share screen button. Okay. And it's working. Okay. So you're my eyes now, Nariman. What do you see?
Top 5 reasons you shouldn't be in HR.
Okay. I thought this would be a fun little thing to talk about.
I can think of a few.
So, we always talk about the reasons why you should be in HR and what you should do in HR. So here's some of the things, at least in my opinion, I think, shouldn't be. If you want to be in HR, these are, you shouldn't be doing these things. So let's have a quick look at this top 5 list. So number 1 reason you shouldn't be in HR. If your number 1 skill is arranging events and parties. I missed out number 1. So if your number 1 skill is arranging events and parties, it's a great thing that you know how to do that, and it does help in HR if you are helping people to throw parties and stuff. But that's not your number 1 skill to be in HR. There are so many other things. Number 4, if your favorite sport is office politics, HR is not the place for you. Yes, there is office politics, but politics can also be a good thing. I would recommend staying away from gossip and not indulging in, promoting office politics, because that can create a lot of problems for everyone.
Yep.
And the number 3 reason you shouldn't be in HR is you think smiling is the number 1 reason for mouth cancer. Now, I don't want anyone to get offended on this one, but I've seen some great HR people who are very helpful, who are welcoming. But then I've seen people in HR, the minute you see them, their faces are like they don't want to see you. And
you don't want to engage.
They don't want to engage. Yes. And a lot of times when people come to HR, they are in a problem, they have a worry. And a smiling face always helps. So if you can smile more often in HR, it'll certainly help. And the number 2 reason you shouldn't be in HR, if asking personal questions is your thing. We talked about this, Nariman, right?
I wish this was taken as seriously as I'm gonna hold my tongue on this one.
So I understand that sometimes you want to know the person, to connect with them. But, sometimes asking personal questions is not the right thing to do. And what I've seen sometimes is HR people, they ask questions which cross the boundary. So if that's your thing, you really shouldn't be in HR. And the last and the number one. Sorry?
What is number 1? I'm excited to see.
Drum roll. Here's the drum roll. The number 1 reason you shouldn't be in HR. You think exit interviews should be outsourced to divorce attorneys. Now, when a person joins the organization, they are excited. And that's a great opportunity for HR to, introduce them to the organization, the culture, the values, and all the good stuff. Having said that, when a person leaves the organization, I think it's an even bigger opportunity to understand why they're leaving.
100% agree with you.
And the last impression is very important. So take those exit interviews seriously, and that's it. Those are the top 5 reasons you shouldn't be in HR. I'm pretty sure there is another side to this, and if you have any comments or questions, would love to hear from you maybe later on. And do.
For
Nariman,
sure.
what do you think, Nariman?
I actually loved all of those reasons. I'll be honest, I didn't know that was the direction we were going in. So that was a pleasant surprise. And I think, while you put it in a really humorous and funny way, there are some really solid lessons in those 5 points.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate how much of that you see in
Yeah.
HR with, HR colleagues, professionals, especially the exit interview, the importance of speaking to someone when they're leaving, because it can actually help you unearth a lot wider issues in the organization within maybe their team. Maybe there's a culture issue, toxic leadership, etc. And you won't know that if you're not engaging in those conversations. And then you're just not doing your job as HR, right? Like that's the kind of stuff you really want to get into and try and resolve. So yeah, I think there's some very good lessons in those 5 reasons.
Yeah. And some of the most respected organizations in the world, they even have like this alumni club that when you exit the organization, you're part of that alumni, kind of like being in the university. So yeah, I just wanted to throw up there in the mix because I think it's the best way to talk about something serious. Because I also have a soft heart for people in HR because they have a tough time. Also,
it is a very tough job. It is one of those, and I would say like the number one reason you shouldn't be in HR is if you are someone who is motivated or functions by praise, because it is one of those functions where if things are going right, nobody notices. No one's going to say anything. No one's saying, "Oh my God, great job! Things are working well." But the second something goes wrong, everybody has an opinion. And because it's something which everybody connects with, it affects every single person in the organization, no matter what function you're in.
Yeah.
So everybody has like a stake when it comes to HR policies, processes, whatever you're introducing. So it's always interesting.
Absolutely.
It's a battlefield all the time.
It is. Now, which brings me to, since COVID happened, a lot of things changed for, a lot of us, based on how, you have pivoted, your organization has pivoted. What 3 skills would you suggest people master in these, disruptive times from your perspective?
Okay, so there's a couple of things. One, I think, is just the use of technology. And I don't mean just, things like Zoom and Teams. There's so much functionality on systems that organizations have had for years and years, but we didn't even realize all the things that we can do. So just how to use your systems technology, because that's going to help you pivot a lot of your, let's say, businesses which aren't able to continue in that traditional way. So whatever field you're in, there will be technology that's relevant to it. So learn how to master that. I mean, for me, honestly, I've had to learn how to master MS Teams and do MS Teams live, and, those kind of things, which
that's not easy.
Touched before. And I was like, what is this producer stuff happening? But now I know, and I can run those sessions, and it's great. But so whatever field you're in, there will be technology that, you need to learn to master. Something else would be around just knowing how to get the work-life balance right. And I know it was something that's always been discussed even pre-COVID, but I think when people started working from home, there was just burnout was happening a lot faster. People were fatigued, people were exhausted a lot more because you had this pressure to be present, So if you have like a communicator or Teams and you have that little dot next to your name, you want it to be green all the time.
Right.
So understanding the difference between being present and being productive and realizing that they're 2 very different things. So I think, mastering that productivity versus presence is another thing I would mention. And the third one is just around, I think for line managers specifically, trust, just knowing how to trust teams. Because I think once you are in a virtual space, and for us, it's been, since March globally, we aren't really resuming anywhere at that kind of pace that we were before. We opened a few offices in the middle. We've gone back to closing them in most locations. Just being able to work as a team in that environment where you're not having that usual just banter around the office, where you're not having those coffee breaks, learning to still being able to connect on a personal level as well as checking in on the work, but getting that trust level right within teams and developing that team camaraderie, even in this virtual space, I think would be the third thing that's really important to master, because I don't think this is ending anytime soon.
Yeah.
And B, the way the world is and the way organizations are, especially if you work for a global organization, at some point or the other, you will be managing somebody who doesn't sit in the same location as you. So even if you come out of COVID, you'll still have similar kind of restrictions. So it's just important to be able to know how to manage teams virtually, I think.
Very cool. And that point you made on the work-life balance part, it's funny you mentioned that, because it's always the mantra, that don't take work home. And now it's like, okay,
It's always home.
it's always home, right? So what do I do? So I think that's really a great point. How do you create that work-life mix while you are at home and when work is all around you? Makes perfect sense.
I mean, I think it really helps when you have organizations that are flexible. So, I mean, for us, we've realized that it's not about that 9 to 5 so much, obviously. So you might have somebody who can't work like the first few hours in the morning because they have to help their kids with online school.
Right.
So they'll put in a few hours later in the day. So just that kind of flexibility really helps, because it is really difficult. I know for me, the first, I think 4 months, I had no track of time. I wasn't scheduled. I literally had to go into my calendar and schedule lunch breaks, because you just keep accepting all the meetings that are coming, because you're like, no calendar clash, let me accept. No calendar clash, let me accept. And you look at your day and you're like,
oh yeah,
I can't survive this. And we had to have like conversations as a team that this is not sustainable. We are not going to survive as a unit if we continue to work this way. So we had to really get that balance right.
Awesome. And hence the term, I'm all zoomed out, right? That's what it probably means.
Oh my God, Zoom fatigue is so real.
Okay. So let's move to something a little more silly, right? Because although I think we have been talking about a lot of fun stuff while talking about HR, so that's pretty cool, I think. So I wanted to ask you this: if you could choose your own nickname, what would it be?
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a story. So I have a nickname. I have two.
Okay.
One is like within my family, which I despise. But because I've had it for so long, I don't think any of my aunts or uncles call me anything other than that. And with friends, or even in some of my workplaces, without wanting it, even I've been called Nari like a lot.
Okay.
And it's fine. Nari is cool. Like I can get with that. But what started happening was there was this song Nari Nari.
Yes, I remember that song. That's true. That's true. I remember that song. Yes.
I kid you not, the number of times, somebody will say hi to me. They'll be like, "Oh, Nari." I'm like, no. No. So I would want any other nickname at this point other than Nari. I'd be happy with like a NQ. I think I mean, I feel like a nickname should be just like simple, easy, personable, and makes you feel like approachable. So I feel like NQ is good. I'd be happy with that.
So in your case, it's a nickname you choose not to have. Okay.
I'm so done with that song.
I don't blame you. Okay. Let's move back to HR.
Sure.
Now, let's see how you answer this one.
Okay.
Just like people, organizations are complex. Within an organization, there's a big story, then there are little stories happening all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you'll give a very interesting perspective on this question. I wanted to ask you, who's the real villain in organizations?
Okay, it's really interesting that you've asked this question, because I actually ran a session just yesterday where I sort of spoke about the villain in organizations.
Really?
Yeah, well, I didn't use the term villain, but we sort of spoke about how as an organization, you might be trying to do something, but the people within that organization, and this could be leaders, it could be, anybody in your employee base. And I'll give you an example. So let's say you have a policy of work from home.
Right.
A lot of organizations had it pre-COVID, but those individuals who, let's say, took advantage of working from home would often get labeled as, not really doing their job seriously, partying when they're at home. Obviously, they're watching series and binge watching shows and just have the laptop on the side. So you're becoming the villain, because while the organization is trying to be progressive, as the people who are part of that organization, you're not allowing that to happen. You're creating a negative perception about these things. So genuinely for me, like, the real villain in an organization is that sort of, it's not like a person, it's not a team, it's not a function. It is that culture of, just negativity, and that sort of, I need to put someone down. I cannot allow, if somebody's doing something slightly different to me, and it's never just one person, it's usually like a wider group, and it's not one layer, it's not one level of the hierarchy, it sort of cuts across.
Right.
And I think it goes back to sort of like your biases, it goes back to what you've seen, how you've been managed, all of those things play that part. So the real villain for me is just the negative baggage that sort of people carry and bring into the organization, and then sort of manifest itself in different ways. So that would be
Makes perfect sense. I think I couldn't agree with you more, because a lot of times one has to figure out how to get out of their own way, and that
yeah.
mindset plays a big role in organizations. So perfect. See, I knew you would come up with a smart answer. So well done,
Thanks.
Nariman.
I
So,
try.
so the last question, and this is something I ask everyone: if heaven exists and when you arrive at the pearly gates, what do you want God to say to you?
Ooh, this is a hard one. This is a tough
Really?
one.
I thought I would never hear that from you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be honest, because it's not something I think about a lot, right? Like, I'm a mildly religious person. Like, I have my beliefs, yes,
Yeah.
but it's not something I spend too much time thinking about. I think what I would maybe love to hear is, yeah, okay. So all my favorite musicians who have passed, I would love at the entrance of that, when I'm walking into heaven, for God to tell me that there is a concert starting in 30 minutes with the Beatles and Hendrix and all of these guys. And that's what I want to hear. So please join the show. That's what I would love to hear.
That would be so cool. So a party is waiting for you, right? Whenever you go.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, I believe that's all we have time for. Before I just mention our next episode, any parting words, Nariman?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a really fun conversation, and I love the way that you use humor to put out some really important and insightful messages. And I hope people enjoyed the conversation. I definitely did. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I think me and Nariman had a lot of fun talking about HR and other stuff. I just hope at no one's expense. And before we tune out, just do not log out, Nariman. I'll just have a few words with you. I just wanted to thank everyone who tuned in and was listening to us. So thank you so much. Quickly wanted to announce our next episode, which is on December 16th. It's about content creation. It's with Rhonda. She's a guru in this area, how to do blogging, what in the world is organic traffic, and all the good stuff. So hopefully you can tune in for that. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me and Nariman. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.